So let's begin from the very beginning. What is RE100 and what are its goals?
So RE100 is a global corporate renewable energy initiative and led by the Climate Group. And our goal is to accelerate change towards zero carbon grids globally by 2040. We do this by bringing together large, ambitious businesses that are committed to use 100% renewable electricity in their operations. So hence the name RE100. We convene over 400 of the world's biggest and best known corporates. Household names such as Samsung, IKEA, Apple, and we have over 120 members that report operations in Italy. So together, all our members consume over 440 terawatt hours of electricity each year, the same amount as a G7 country, the UK or Italy. We want to accelerate change towards zero carbon grids globally by 2040, as I mentioned earlier. And through our businesses, we're sending that powerful demand signal to markets and governments around the world for renewable electricity and the need to put in place favourable policies for renewables.
Wow, you have a very ambitious goal. And yeah, what is the role of businesses in fighting climate change?
Yeah, so as I said earlier, our membership is 400 companies, and we have corporations joining the whole time. And companies in the commercial and industrial sector, they account for over half of the world's consumption of electricity. Now, that main role for businesses, the two ways they can help. First is through advocacy, and second is through their investments. So in terms of advocacy, our members help to push for more renewable electricity to be brought onto the grid in countries all over the world. With our members, we are calling on governments to urgently increase ambition and action on renewables, enabling renewables to compete on a level playing field with fossil fuels. So what this means is ending fossil fuel subsidies, ramping up investments in renewables, and allowing renewable electricity to be bought at its true and competitive cost. And then I also mentioned investment. So additionally, the private sector has played such a big role in accelerating the transition to renewable electricity. And this is by investing billions around the world in renewable production infrastructure. So as an example, in 2021, corporate buyers signed 8 gigawatts worth of renewable power purchase agreements, what are called PPAs, across the EU. That's equivalent to 17.5% of the total renewable capacity installed that year, or is enough to power 7 million homes.
Wow, yeah, that's impressive. And talking about renewables, why did you decide to debunk some myths about them? I found your article really interesting and inspiring. And what myth is the most dangerous one, according to you?
Yeah, glad you found it interesting. And the main reason really is there's a lot of disinformation around renewable electricity and its role in our net zero future. And we wanted to show how wrong some of these myths and disinformation is. So we need to tackle those head on. So that's what we've done. The most dangerous one is that the energy transition can't be done and that it's too expensive to do. This creates like a culture of complacency and doesn't consider the rapid and urgent change we need to make to how we produce and consume energy and the benefits of doing this. So as an example, one of the myths that we hear a lot is that renewables are just too expensive to install. The actual fact of this is that new European solar capacity is 10 times cheaper than existing gas-fired power plants in the long run. And the future is very clearly renewables. Renewable electricity is cheaper, clean, provides energy security, and can be rolled out at speed. So that's what we want to do, is to prove this.
Great. Yeah, I think the energy crisis increased the awareness of governments and also of consumers about the need to diversify our value chain and switch to a clean system, obviously. But what was the impact of the energy crisis on the energy transition, according to your latest report?
Yeah, so our latest report, which was our 2022 annual disclosure report, we noted that the world is facing an unprecedented energy crisis, leading to fears of a slowdown in climate action as countries prioritise shorter-term energy security issues. Despite this uncertainty, the energy transition has emerged as being strengthened rather than weakened by the energy crisis. I mean, after all, the energy crisis we've seen over the last 2 years has been caused by expensive fossil fuels. So the fallout from Russia's invasion of Ukraine has clearly demonstrated that fragility of our existing system, which is based on fossil fuels. And what we've seen in response is a stimulation of like a renewed rush for renewables and smoothing the way for lots of new legislation, such as President Biden's Inflation Reduction Act and the EU's Green Deal industrial plan. I mean, here in the European Union, we've seen wind deployment accelerated with 13 gigawatts added in 2022. Then in terms of our members, the key findings from our most recent report shown that our members are continuing to source more and more renewables. So in our last report, our members consumed 49% renewable electricity. That's up from 45% the year before and 41% the year before that.
Wow, stunning. But what else we need to do in order to reach the European targets, but also the American targets in terms of emissions reduction and increasing renewables in the energy mix?
Yeah, there's still lots of work to be done. And I think what the energy crisis has shown and Russia's invasion of Ukraine has just shown the consequences of if you take a sluggish approach to the renewable energy transition, you can see the fallout from that. So countries must now seize this opportunity to move away from fossil fuels at pace. We need to go much further, much faster, no more delayism. As the UN Secretary General has recently said at the launch of the most recent IPCC report, the world needs climate action at all fronts, so everything, everywhere, all at once. We're seeing ambition. G20 has just the other week said that they're going to treble renewable energy capacity by 2030. And similarly in Europe, the ambition is there. We just need to see these warm words turned into action and commitment. And some of those main challenges to stopping these targets being achieved in Europe, that is really around governments being able to provide renewable energy projects quick and easy access to the grid. And just overall, there needs to be more consistent messaging on a clearly pro-renewables investment environment. So these are big infrastructure projects and they need certainty. So making pledges on one hand, but pushing policies that directly contradict them on the other just creates uncertainty and will ultimately limit the investment that companies will make in the renewable energy transition.
Yeah, that's clear. Obviously, as you said, renewable energy is becoming more and more cheaper. But what else can we do in order to assure that the transition will be inclusive and sustainable also from a social point of view? We deal every day with problem which we call energy poverty. The energy crisis has increased this phenomenon also in Italy. There are families who maybe cannot heat their homes because they do not have enough money, actually. And so how can we assure that no one is left behind?
Yeah, it's really important, this. And these terrible scenes that we are seeing across Europe and across the world are down to that existing fossil fuel-based system that we have. And as you say, it's really important that as we deliver the energy transition, that is one that's equitable and one that not only solves the sustainability issues that we have, but advances prosperity for all without sort of exacerbating the existing inequalities. Now, in terms of renewables, they provide electricity at prices cheaper than ever before. So that will hopefully help alleviate those cost pressures that many people see with their energy bills, and is particularly welcome for those low-income households. Also, renewables are great for jobs. So an estimated 14 million new clean energy jobs will need to be created by 2030. That's according to the International Energy Agency. So with the right policies, European governments can ensure that the jobs of the future are created in Europe through the supply chains to these big renewable energy projects. And also, renewable electricity provides health benefits, and this is particularly the case in low-income communities. They cut levels of exposure to dangerous pollution. So to sum up, renewable electricity is continuing to grow and is making great progress to the economic issues that families are seeing, but also on their health and climate side as well.
Yeah, thank you. The green jobs also are a really important aspect of the transition, in fact. Yeah, I was not planning about asking you, but you are also the organizer of the Climate Week in New York City, right? So maybe could you give us some insights about that?
Yeah, so we've just come to the end of Climate Week that's been happening in New York. And it's a great opportunity to bring together businesses, governments, other civil society organizations in the space, and to really help sort of set the agenda and the scene for what's ahead of the UN General Assembly. And myself was there over the last few days, and it's a great way to bring together the RE100 members and discuss challenges they're facing, but also help to set out the work we want to do together as an initiative over the coming year.